Good evening. A group of protesters who have set up what they're calling a tent city say that they will stay until Hull City Council meets their demands. They want permanent places for homeless people, not just beds in shelters. But the council has hit back, saying that there is no need for anyone in Hull to sleep rough and that shelters are the answer. Sarah Walton has this report.
The group of tents in the city centre has been growing since Friday. The protesters say they want to make the hidden problem of homelessness very visible. Those sleeping rough here say local shelters are just a short-term solution and the council should find them permanent places to live.
There's lots of properties that are empty that they could transform into bedsits, somewhere for them to stay. It's a roof over their heads.
Hostels are obviously temporary, and some people come to depend on that much, you know, and then they forget how it is to live for themselves.
The camp is linked to others in Sheffield and Leeds. Organisers say during that protest, Leeds City Council found homes for 31 people. Dock House Hostel has some of the 320 beds available for homeless people in Hull. Managers say many are too vulnerable to be given their own homes and they need the support from hostels.
They prepare people to live independently. They help them develop the skills they need. You know, budgeting, which is a major issue for homeless people. You know, a lot of people have lost where they lived already because they haven't paid the rent, or they've had their electric cut off, or they've got debtors after them.
And those pitching their tents in the city centre have had a mixed welcome.
I think they've done the right thing because everybody's talking about it, everybody sees it.
It's absolutely disgraceful that the government have allowed this situation to happen.
If they're youngish, they're homeless because they don't want to do as they're told.
I mean, a lot of them are drunkards and druggies.
Hull City Council says it will help the people camped here, but at the moment, permanent accommodation isn't an option.
The dilemma is what I won't do is set people up to fail, so I won't provide them with a permanent accommodation knowing that it'll break down in a few months. So we'll support them and we'll help them to move on. In the short term, what we would offer is hostel accommodation. And if those people want to move into accommodation, we can help.
Well, tonight there are about 12 people camped out here and it's getting very cold. It's going to be near to 0 tonight, but they say they won't leave. They've heard what the council have to offer and they say hostels aren't good enough. They say if they are moved from this site, they will find another nearby. And they've promised to stay in the city until everyone sleeping rough here is offered somewhere permanent to live.
Sarah, thank you very much indeed. Be asking for your views on this one in just a moment. But the man behind the tent protest is Hayden Jessup. I asked him why he'd decided to do it.
To raise and highlight the issue of obviously homelessness, obviously not just in Hull, all across the UK.
Plenty of spaces in Hull. So why are you doing this? Why are you making the Fountain area, a beautiful part of Hull, look such a mess?
Because obviously, you know, it's a prime location for obviously passers-by when they're coming up and getting off a bus. You know, we've got the location of BBC outside. You know, we've got the media attention, but you know, it's just to show people how many homeless people are actually out there in the city centre.
But there are loads of spaces in hostels in Hull. There's only 25 on average a night rough sleepers, so there isn't a problem. So I don't understand why you're making such a mess.
I spoke to the council, I spoke to outreach workers who have worked here for 10 years, who I've been in contact with for 6 months, and even they're saying that, you know, the national statistics saying there's 25 rough sleepers, you know, there's triple that, you know, there's quadruple that. The council have even said that this morning when I spoke to them.
Now, you've met with the council. Are they
Yes.
going to evict you and move you on?
No, we just had a fantastic meeting with the council. The council are going to work with us. Emmaus are going to work with us as well. And there's not going to be no court proceedings, no eviction notice, obviously because they believe that they can house the guys on site.
And they've actually said that they approve of what you're doing, have they?
I'd say, you know, the director of housing did say that he's happy of what we're doing because we're highlighting the issue.
He's happy with what you're doing?
Because we're highlighting the issue of homelessness. And obviously, the general public are now seeing the mass number of how many rough sleepers are actually, obviously, in the town centre on a daily basis.
So what do you want them to be given then?
So basically, we want sustainable housing.
What does that mean in English?
So basically, we want these guys to have some kind of home to be able to go home to, be able to engage with services.
Yes. You don't want them in a hostel. Why don't they go in a hostel?
Because obviously, you know, these hostels, you're putting people who've got addiction problems back into a place where there's 30 or 40 people with addiction problems. You know, everybody don't want to get clean in there. You know, people are being abused, people are being beaten up in there.
What percentage of the homeless people are there out of choice rather than having to be there?
I wouldn't say it's out of choice at all. You know, it's about...
No, but what percentage?
I couldn't give you a percentage, but what it is obviously these hostels, you know, they've been let down by so many times. And let's put it this way: there's one open today, Dock House, which is only open for 3 months of the winter period. What we're going to do after that 3 months?
If the council comes along tomorrow and gives housing places to all the people out there, you go tomorrow, do you?
Yes, of course we do. Of course we would. But we just need to make sure that these guys are still going to get the support and services, and obviously be able to engage with people and get supported housing when they get put into housing.
And when you've done this in other places, has it worked?
Of course it has. In Leeds, we went there within 22 days. We housed 31 people. We turned the council hands.
Really sticking yourself right in the beautiful part of Hull, right outside the BBC, so you get coverage and everything. You're blackmailing them into action.
No, it's about turning their hand. It's about turning their hand and obviously highlighting the problem that's at their forefront.
We'll wait and see. Do you accept it looks a mess out there?
I wouldn't say it looks a mess, no. I wouldn't say, you know, we're keeping it clean and tidy. And even the councillor said today, and you could have a meeting with them, they'll tell you that, you know, it's clean and tidy, and that's why they're not moving us on.
Mr. Jessup, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Well, Hayden Jessup is the man behind the protest, and you can see a full interview with Hull City Council responding to that interview in our late edition. A group of protesters who have set up what they're calling a tent city say that they will stay until Hull City Council meets their demands. They want permanent places for homeless people. The council has hit back, saying that there is no need for anyone in Hull to sleep rough because there are enough places in shelters. Sarah Walton has this report.
The group of tents in the city centre has been growing since Friday. The protesters say they want to make the hidden problem of homelessness very visible. Those sleeping rough here say local shelters are just a short-term solution, and the council should find them permanent places to live.
There's lots of properties that are empty that they could transform into bedsits, somewhere for them to stay. It's a roof over their heads.
Hostels are obviously temporary, and some people come to depend on that much, you know, and then they forget how it is to live for themselves.
The camp is linked to others in Sheffield and Leeds. Organisers say during that protest, Leeds City Council found homes for 31 people.
What we're trying to do is cut out the middlemen of being in a hostel, because once the council think that they've got a place to stay and a roof over their head, that's them done with it, which clearly it's not.
Dock House Hostel has some of the 320 beds available for homeless people in Hull. Managers say many are too vulnerable to be given their own homes, and they need the support from hostels.
They prepare people to live independently. They help them develop the skills they need. You know, budgeting, which is a major issue for homeless people. You know, a lot of people have lost where they lived already because they haven't paid the rent, or they've had their electric cut off, or they've got debtors after them.
And those pitching their tents in the city centre have had a mixed welcome.
I think they've done the right thing because everybody's talking about it, everybody sees it.
It's absolutely disgraceful that the government have allowed this situation to happen.
If they're youngish, they're homeless because they don't want to do as they're told.
I mean, a lot of them are drunkards and duggies.
Hull City Council says it will help those sleeping on the streets, but at the moment, permanent accommodation isn't available.
Tonight there are about 12 people camped out here. They say if they're moved from this site, they'll find another nearby. And they promise to stay in the city until every rough sleeper is offered somewhere permanent to live. Sarah Walton, BBC Look North in Hull.
Well, this evening I spoke to Dave Richmond, who's the housing manager for Hull City Council. I asked him if the campaigners would get what they want, permanent beds for the homeless instead of hostels.
It may happen in the longer term if people can live in that type of accommodation, sustain that type of accommodation. In the short term, what we would offer is hostel accommodation, and we'd assess them to see how suitable they are to move on to
They don't want that, though. That's the whole point of their campaign.
Yes, I know. And the dilemma is, what I won't do is set people up to fail. So I won't provide them with a permanent accommodation, knowing that it'll break down in a few months. So we'll support them and we'll help them to move on as and when they're ready.
But they say a hostel is not the ideal situation because it's putting people with addictions with other people with addictions.
Well, I'm afraid that they haven't been and seen the hostels we've got in Hull, and we've got some excellent hostels in Hull. If you go to Lockwood Street and in the Emmaus Centre, for example, no one in there takes drugs or takes alcohol.
They also say that your estimate of 25 rough sleepers a night is way out, and it's 3 or 4 times that number. Do you accept that?
No, I don't. We actually have people out every day of every week of every year counting rough sleepers.
So they're wrong on that?
I'm afraid they are wrong. And if you ask them, they've told me today that they think they've got up to 12 in their camp at the moment.
They say that you are happy with what they're doing and this sort of jungle camp outside on Queen's Garden. Are you?
Well, I don't approve of the methods they're doing. The fact that they're raising the plight of homeless and trying to help homeless people, I do approve, but not the methods.
So what they're doing outside on the grass with their tents is wrong, is it?
I don't think it's particularly helpful. I don't think that's the best way to help homeless people.
They told me earlier they will go tomorrow if you're able to house those who are out there that need help. Is that going to happen?
And I think that's the way to go. I think they're wanting to solve a problem, as do we.
Yeah.
And if they can help us and we can help them.
Yeah, but
to
can
solve
you
that
help
problem,
them? Are they going to go tomorrow?
We can help them. We can start to look at whether or not the people that they're dealing with, the 6 or 12 that they're dealing with, can move into accommodation. If those people want to move into accommodation, we can help.
Do you think this time tomorrow night, 10:30, 11:15, do you think they'll be gone?
No.
Very good to see you, Mr. Richmond. Thank you very much indeed.
Pleasure. Thank you very much.
Dave Richmond from the council. The Prime Minister, Theresa May, says that